Welcome to live chat. All right. Hi. I'm doing my office hours right now. Are you talking to me? I mean, I'm recording. Mm, I just remember I can talk. So, Aaron, I replied to your question. Is the test on the 29th? That is in your email. And is that test on the 29th? And I'm clarifying, I know you're not asking, um, is the test on the 29th, but other students have. You could always go reference the class email that I sent that kind of set a framework for the rest of the semester, all things considering. And it is a combination of the original test 2 and 3, correct? Um, so motions, but you know what's actually not tough, say not tough, trying to look on the bright side, is that test 3 material still incorporates test 2 information, motions, right? So you still have to understand motions to apply agonist with motion for contraction. So it's not that you know, have to learn something and then forget about it or lose it. You're still applying all of the motion stuff to the muscles, because that's why we have muscles, is to influence our motion. So so it's not as bad as I think what it could be with other classes, where you finish with a test and you go on to entirely new content that has no applicability possibly to the previous exam's content. So at least this stuff kind of blends in and still has some applicability. You know, you don't technically lose anything. You just kind of apply it more advanced. So. Thank you for your question. So, for those of you that are asking, always reference the email, and then if there's any clarifications on the email, then come with me for clarifications. Anyone else have questions? Oh, you're very welcome, Aaron. Thank you for watching the lectures. And man, I know this isn't perfect, but you know we gotta do what we gotta do. Okay. I do know that my questions are going to be pretty straightforward. Once I figure out how to do it on Moodle, they'll, you know, the just very consistent with some of the things we talked about. My intent is for people who actually took the time to watch the lectures that you guys will be in a much better position to answer consistently and answer correctly than students who do not. I guess that's the way all classes should be, right? People that do what they're supposed to do well, and the students that don't do what they're supposed to do don't do as well. Hope you guys are doing okay. I'll um I'll probably resend that email. Man, Peter, let me see. Let me check something real quick. I get to your question, but give me a second. Let's see. The best way. That's an impossible question for me to ask because every person is different. What would I say is the best way to prepare for the exam? Dude, I don't know. how every person is different. So, and not only that, but I don't know your learning style. I don't know what works well for you. What would you say is the best way to prepare for the exam beyond rewatching your videos? Um, Rewatching the videos, and in the videos, I tell you that you could practice this stuff all day. Uh, I can't recommend anything because I learn differently than all of you guys. And you learn differently than all of us guys, and Aaron learns differently than all of us guys. So, um, you should have some data on your learning style from the first test. And if that worked for you, great. If not, change it up. We even talked about different strategies to use. And during the lectures, I talked about different things you could do to practice. So watch the lectures and practice. And if you have any specific clarifications on your practice, that's when you come and ask me, hey, is this it? Is this right? Is this not? So sometimes, Peter, those questions are code word for, can you just tell me what's on the test? And that's how I always interpret those kind of questions. Besides studying, can you tell me anything I can do to prepare for the test? Nah, if the question is genuinely not just asking me what's on the test, just practice, man. Practice, practice, practice. That's my recommendation. Practice. Practice the material. But we mention that in class all the time, right? The best way to get better in playing basketball uh, is to practice. The best way to get better um, at every skill is developed. And being a kinesiology detective and figuring out who's working, how they're working, is just a practice. So whether that's practicing at home, doing things, or going on Google and just typing up random exercises, just practice. That's my advice. Practice. Practice the material. Don't just study it. Don't just rewatch it. Practice it. That's my advice. And good question. Thank you for asking it. If you, let's see, yeah, I mean, if you've been watching the videos and you understand the concepts and you did decent on the first test, you should be fine. Oh, you're welcome, buddy. No problem. Yeah, it's always tough. I know, like, maybe from your perspective, and when I say you, a student's perspective, it's a very important question to you. What do I need to do? But man, that's really a tough one for someone who has a different way of learning to answer for 80 different learning styles. And I don't want to ever be the reason someone doesn't do well, right? So if I say, well, this is what works for me, and it doesn't work for you or someone else, and so what worked for me was just listening to lectures. So I didn't take notes. I just listened and understood the concepts. And then in college, when I'd go work out or exercise, I would apply those concepts to the workouts and review. Okay, what am I working here? When is it this contraction, that contraction? So, but I don't want to say you should do that because maybe that doesn't work for you. But me personally, by applying the heck out of it in everything I did. What else you guys got on your agendas? Everybody got concepts down? Come on, Peloton. Any of you guys got to watch the morning lecture this morning before this? I'm partway through. Okay, great. So yeah, today's lecture was you saw this on YouTube first before the lecture. That's all good. So the lecture today was really just applying Monday's lecture to the same examples that I've been giving you guys. There's the curl, um, the elbow flexor curl, the bicep curl example. We do the knee extensor machine, and then we flip it and do the knee flexor machine. So, and then we answer specific questions. Identify the agonist, identify the contraction in regard to motion, and then identify a plyometric sequence of that specific exercise. Okay, here we go. Is there any significance in elbow flexion when doing horizontal shoulder AMA deduction flies? Extend the elbows. Yeah, so this is something we get into. First of all, Cade, you won't need to know what I'm about to tell you for your test, okay? So this is things we get into biomechanics with what we call moment of inertia or rotational inertia. And the concept is it's not for your muscles. So your muscles are trying to rotate things, and then external forces are trying to rotate things. And it's not just about the force, it's about how far that force is being applied that gives certain mechanical advantages or disadvantages. So imagine if you have a shopping cart full of cases of drink. Use your imagination, whatever kind you want, doesn't matter to me. I don't judge. But if you have all those cases close to the handle, it's easier to turn the aisles, right? And if you put all those cases far away from the handle, it's harder to turn. Now, it's the same weight, the stuff is the same, but how you distribute it makes it harder or easier to rotate for your hands, right? So in the case of your elbows, we're working the shoulder abductors, regardless of if your elbows are extended or in. However, the further out you put the mass, the further you increase the moment of inertia, the greater the torque. In other words, the external torque or moment. Moment is the same thing as torque. Torque we typically use in mechanics, moment we typically use in biomechanics. So you can do this little thought experiment in your head. If you have 20-pound dumbbells and you hold them out here with your elbows flexed, it's a heck of a lot easier on your shoulder abductors to maintain this position than if you hold them out all the way over here, right? Now, the weight is the same. The force is the same, but you changed the external moment or torque, the rotational force. That's what changes. So that's why it's harder to hold something out because you increase its moment of inertia, you increase its torque. And if the external torque goes up, your internal torque needs to go up. In other words, your muscle's rotational force has to go up. And since the muscle can't detach and retach further down, its only option to increase its torque is to pull harder. So yeah, there's a difference. And if you notice, like if that's why I personally, now it's hard to find those machines, but I like the machine fly because it's hard. The torque is so high when you get up here, it's hard to hold that position, right? So imagine someone doing flies with like 20 pounds or 30 pounds, something heavy. Typically, you see them get it up, but it comes right back down. It's hard to hold that up there because the external torque is so high. Thus, your internal torque has to be high as well. So, yeah, there is a difference when it comes to free weights because the torque always changes. In the machine, the torque doesn't change, meaning that if you're in the machine, it doesn't matter if your elbows are flexed or your elbows extended. If the padding is pushing on the same spot, then it doesn't matter. The machine doesn't matter. All right. So what a great question. Thank you for asking that. Let me know if I did a decent job of putting that into layman's terms. Yeah, man, thought experiments are great. And remember, your body knows the physics. So if you're doing some thought experiments and you're like, what I wonder if there's a difference between X and Y. I wonder if there's a difference between here and here. If it feels harder, it is harder. If it feels easier, it is easier. So your body knows these things. We just got to get your mind to say what your body already knows. We have our species has a lot of years of practical knowledge. Thank you for that question too. It's a good question. Now, you know what doesn't do anything? Doesn't do anything. Forces, tug of wars that we talk about, only really work efficiently if they're pulling in the same direction, right? Remember the old trick where you try to squeeze your hands together and then the other person comes and knocks them off? Well, that works because the force you're applying is here and the force they're applying is there. It's not in the same direction. So all they have to do is overcome the friction that you're creating between your hand, your skin, and your hands. My point is that what isn't really effective is when people have dumbbells and the force that you feel from gravity is negative y, right, down relative to how you are. But they'll take the dumbbells and then they'll do like chest flies with the dumbbells. So in other words, there is no force in the horizon. There is no force in the same direction as motion. So really all they're doing is just isometrically holding it up in different positions and changing the position. Another way of looking at it is that if I had a 200-pound wrecking ball, or I know it's probably 2,000-pound wrecking ball, and it's suspended from a cable, there's no way I can pick the wrecking ball up, but I could swing it side to side, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the same thing. So if you're ever working with someone and you see them have dumbbells and they're doing like this kind of stuff, that's really not that's significance. That's significance. And remember, you always use tact. You never want to be like, oh my God, why are you doing it like that? I mean, sometimes these people don't know any better. It's not their fault. So so that's where you can politely, especially if you forces that are working against your motion. So maybe I could take you over to this machine and you tell me if you feel a difference, or you take him over to a cable, right? You can make a cable pull in the same directions of motion. When I say directions, the same dimensions of motion. So so there's always tact. You don't have to call people out. You don't have to weight room shame them. But there's a way to educate them without them making them feel like dumb heads, right? Because you want them to be able to come back. You don't want them to feel ashamed and say, "Oh man, I feel like an idiot now. I don't want to come back." Another example is when people are doing like the side trunk leans, and they have like two dumbbells of the same size. Well, the dumbbell in your right hand is trying to right laterally bend you, and the dumbbell in the left hand is trying to left laterally bend you, and those things cancel out. So really, you're just kind of playing teeter-totter. So if you really want to kind of work the left lateral trunk benders or the right lateral trunk benders, you need to let go of one of those dumbbells and only have one dumbbell in your hand. Now it's going to significantly be trying to teeter-totter you one way, and then those muscles need to play against that teeter-totter. So, so that's another one that you might see where people they don't know any better. They just have two and they're just going back and forth with two. They drop one, let there be an unbalanced force trying to make you lean one way, and that way your muscles are having to play tug of war against it. You don't have the left dumbbell playing tug of war against the right dumbbell. Yeah, man, physics helps. Physics helps. The physics, we had to start enforcing that prereq before biomechanics. It was just getting too crazy. Students were waiting until their last semester to take physics, and I was having to teach, or people are on different levels. That's really what it's about. It's about trying to get everybody on the same prereq level. And so we had to really start enforcing that prereq for biomechanics. But you're right, man, having it before this class is helpful too. But that's why I don't use a lot of physics terms, because it's not a prereq for 310. So I just have to introduce you to concepts, use layman's terms. But yeah, man, having physics can definitely help you. I need to watch Tiger King. I've been posting memes about it for the past couple of weeks, but I need to finish watching it. Okay, Kylie, let's see. I feel I understand the whole concept of what we are learning right now, which is nice, but need to review overall motions. There you go. So remember, it can be overwhelming if you let it be overwhelming. meaning that when you look at the whole amount of motions, it's a lot. But that's why we analyze motions joint by joint. Just remember, you can make a list in your head of all the major joints that I'm holding you accountable for, and then say, what does the ankle do? What does the subtalar joint do? What does the knee do? What does the hip do? Right? So when we break it down joint by joint, it makes it less overwhelming. It makes it more palatable. And you say, well, the shoulder can only do so many different things, and the elbow can only do so many different things, and the radioulnar joint can only do so many different things. When we put all of those individual pieces together, we get a lot of different, task motions, movement strategies, movements. But the joint motions themselves are very basic. They really are. Yeah, so you can review when you're watching TV or, just relaxing. Even when you're not relaxing, you can review this stuff all the time. When you're exercising, you can review joint motions. When you're working out, you could review joint motions. When you're at rest watching TV, you could review joint motions because you can watch someone move and analyze their motion. You can press pause, you could rewind. TikTok, man, TikTok review all day long. So Kylie, I think it's just practice. Yeah, just review, practice, and the more you speak it, I've said this in class several times, that if you're trying to learn a new language, this is kind of like a new language, right? You're speaking a language that the average person does not speak. And the best way to learn a new language is to find someone to speak it with. And that's important too, because if all you ever do is speak it to yourself, then maybe you don't catch when you meant to say, when you say a word incorrectly. You can't catch yourself. You can't clarify. So that's why it's maybe important to find someone to FaceTime with or to Zoom with, where you can practice speaking the language of kinesiology, of human movement. Thank you for that question statement, Kylie. Maybe you guys, if y'all don't have study partners, maybe y'all could use, you guys could talk to each other right here and find someone to Zoom with or FaceTime with or study with. Hey, y'all can talk normal. It's fine. How's y'all other classes coming along, guys? Okay, let's see. All right, the video lectures. As most lectures on YouTube, or are they doing different tech? Maybe some of your classes are smaller in size. Maybe they can do. I can't do. I have too many students to do like the Brady Bunch screens, like the Zoom. But maybe some of y'all classes have numbers that are small enough to do that. That's kind of cool. So another question, did the university communicate to you guys about what your options are? Like you can choose to take pass, fail, or the grade that you earned? Moodle. They're still just recordings, though. He uses Skype to do office hours. That's cool. Yeah, so if anybody has a clarification on that pass fail stuff, I'm curious about what they told you guys. That was my understanding, but I don't read very well. So I don't read very well. I don't interpret the written word very well. In other words, I can read something, think it means one thing, and it means something else. All right, guys, we got 8 minutes left. So last call. I'm actually pretty pleased, man. If there's no content questions, that must mean we set things up, didn't go too fast, tried to clarify everything. I really am trying not to overwhelm you guys. That's why I've tried to keep lectures within 30 to 40 minutes. They sent an email out for us about the grades. What is it basically what I said or similar? You get to pick. So like in other words, if you get a B and it helps you, take the B. If you get an A, well obviously you keep an A, but if you get a B and maybe the B doesn't help you, then you could just opt for pass, I guess. What about a D? Is a D pass? Or maybe not for KNES? Man, so many questions. Looks like it lets student replace the C with passed instead. Then D and F can both be posted with emergency D. Oh, cool. Okay. So that would communicate to your transcript people that that there were some crazy circumstances. That's kind of cool. All right, guys, last call. If y'all don't have any questions, I'm going to end this and go prep for my biomechanics group in a few minutes. So anything else? Okay, Peter. Okay, let's see. Aaron, I'm always down to study. I struggle in this class. DM me on Graham if anyone is doing group study sessions. Dude, that's it, man. Aaron, that's it, dude. It's practice, man. I know. And the more you practice, the more you talk it, the better your verbiage. Um, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna do fine. Uh, and same to you, Peter. Aaron, thank you for checking in. Peter, thank you for checking in. Kat, thank you. Kylie, thank you. Cade, thank you for checking in, man. Thank y'all for coming in. And remember, man, if y'all need anything, text me. And if we need to talk about something, and that's why I don't have office hours. Every day is office hours. In other words, I'm willing to talk to you guys or clarify something at any time. If I'm awake, I'm willing to talk to you. So you could have an exercise that you're doing or that you're talking, and you need my input on it. Text me, and we'll figure out a time to chat. Okay. All right, guys. Y'all be well.